May 25th, 1977, George Lucas' epic space opera known as Star Wars was released in American theaters, and fans worldwide began a cultural love affair with the franchise. Star Wars featured the acting talents of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. The film became more than just a hit movie, it quickly evolved into a cultural phenomenon. Before the movie's release, thousands of fans camped out and formed lines around city blocks to be amongst the first to see this epic movie. With such fanfare for the film, Star Wars would go on to earn blockbuster status, with more than $461 million in box office in the US and close to $800 million worldwide. If we allow for inflation, the box office number would be worth a staggering $3 billion in today's ticket pricing. Star Wars quickly became a pop culture phenomenon, winning 7 Academy Awards out of its whopping 10 nominations. Star Wars would go on to spawn several marketing tie-ins, including toys, comics, games, clothing, and several other popular items of the times. Star Wars would later spawn several feature-length sequels, numerous cartoons and TV shows. Star Wars had an impact that changed the movie-going experience forever. Star Wars had a huge generational appeal. The classic themes, timeless music, cutting-edge effects in Star Wars made it very unforgettable to a wide variety of audiences. While Lucas borrowed many ideas from the pulp comics of his youth, he was able to blend these influences with those found in cinema to create a mythos that, though familiar, had a freshness all its own. In this video, we will take a closer look at the movie that introduced us to so many memorable characters in the beloved galaxy far, far away. We will break down the key characters, plot points, and other elements of the story in exploring what truly makes this a tale that has captivated generations. Without further ado, let's jump in our virtual time machines and set the dial to 1977 as we explore what we love about Star Wars. So what makes a movie good? Star Wars does a great job of checking all the boxes: the music, the effects, the performances, and the plot. The plot, though fantastical in nature, follows a logical progression that allows for the suspension of disbelief. Like any good story, characters need to be put in situations where they face adversity. A character's path cannot be mundane. The plot must take the character's situations from bad to worse, to even worse, and so on, until the character has finally learned from the past mistakes and chooses to make the necessary changes to finally succeed. If the characters fail to experience challenges and thus fail to grow, they will be rejected by the audience. The best characters will always have experiences that change throughout the story. In the initial act of Star Wars, we find Leia in a desperate situation. She has been entrusted with the plans to the Death Star and must deliver them to rebel leadership. We see Leia put her safety on the line to serve the greater needs of the rebellion. As the Empire boards and gains control of her ship, she records a desperate message for help intended for Obi-Wan Kenobi and loads the Death Star plans on the droid, R2-D2. After loading the plans and messages on R2-D2, Leia attempts to fight back against the stormtroopers, but is soon stunned and captured. Leia's struggle in this scene alerts the audience to the fact that she is supposed to be on the side of good. If we contrast Leia with Darth Vader, we see how music is used to subtly clue the audience in on which character is good and which one is evil. The opening act allows the audience to understand that R2-D2 and C-3PO's escape to Tatooine is critical to the plot. The crucial plans contained in R2's memory serves as the catalyst for driving the other plot elements. R2 is the means by which the audience meets the teenaged Luke Skywalker. When R2 runs off, the droid is also the means through which the protagonist, Luke, meets his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. In addition, R2 and the plans contained in his memory lead to the eventual murder of Luke's family. The importance of the character of R2-D2 cannot be overstated. R2 creates the logical bridge between the characters and works as the glue that binds the early plot together. C-3PO's role allows for the interpretation of R2's action and to provide comic relief in an otherwise serious story. Luke has now been introduced to the audience as the protagonist. He is the young farm boy with dreams as big as the galaxy. Through the machinations of R2, he has been introduced to his teacher, Ben Kenobi. Through Ben, Luke learns about his father's history as a Jedi Knight and his betrayal by the hands of Darth Vader. After encouragement from Ben Kenobi to take up the cause of the rebellion, Luke has refused the call to adventure. Luke's reasoning for this is grounded in his responsibility to his family. This loyalty to his family is an admirable trait, but it is an anchor for the character and logically prevents movement for Luke in the story. This is why it is necessary for that anchor to be severed, as it is by having the Empire murder Luke's family. This story choice does two things. It removes the obstacle in the character's way, and it allows the character to become more sympathetic to the audience. Luke is now seen as having a righteous cause and an understandable motivation to want to fight against the Empire. As Luke struggles to deal with his new reality, the plot can move forward. Luke is now prepared to answer his call to adventure. Following the death of Luke's family, Luke, Ben Kenobi, and the droids make their way to Mos Eisley to find transportation to Alderaan. As they arrive in Mos Eisley, Ben uses the Force to get by an Imperial checkpoint on the lookout for the droids. Here Ben Kenobi explains the use of the Jedi mind trick. He explains to Luke that the mind trick only works on the weak-minded. This is an example of subtle world building. As Luke learns the nuances of the Force, so does the audience. The group then makes their way into Mos Eisley Cantina with hopes of securing the transportation to Alderaan. After a violent encounter at the cantina, Luke and Ben meet a Wookiee, Chewbacca, who along with Han Solo have a ship that can get them to Alderaan. After a negotiation on the price, the group agreed to take the Millennium Falcon to Alderaan. This seems advantageous for all involved, because Han Solo owes a lot of money to the gangster Jabba the Hutt. Before Han can leave the cantina, a Rodian bounty hunter named Greedo confronts Han. Han Solo is forced to kill Greedo. Han provides the capabilities of doing whatever is necessary to save his own neck given the situation. This also leaves the audience with the question of how far Luke and Ben Kenobi can trust Han Solo. The Imperials are now hot on the trail of the group, and the crew of the Millennium Falcon have to make a hot escape from Mos Eisley and Tatooine. As the action returns to the Death Star, we see the danger for Leia increase. This creates a sense of tension for the audience and further cements Leia as an important character. Darth Vader enters Leia's holding cell, accompanied by an interrogator droid. Vader clearly plans on extracting the information from Leia using whatever means necessary. The scene is made more powerful by leaving Leia's fate up to the viewer's imagination as the doors close, with the droid and its needle moving in on Leia. Later in the plot, we are told by Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader that Leia was able to resist the mind probe. This relieves tension for the audience momentarily. Leia is soon brought before Tarkin and Vader, where she is presented with a choice: watch your home planet get destroyed, or give up the location of the hidden rebel base. Here the audience is back on the hook and tension is restored. Does Leia give up her friends and family on Alderaan, or does she give up the cause that she has been fighting for? She is clearly in a lose-lose situation. At this point in the story, Leia has been captured, tortured, and now has to choose between two things she loves. Desperate to save her home, Leia gives Tarkin the name of the planet Dantooine as being the location of the rebel base. Tarkin, in true villain fashion, goes forward with the order to destroy Alderaan. He wants a dramatic demonstration of the power of the Death Star. We see the pain on Leia's face as all she loves is wiped out as her homeworld is annihilated. She is left unable to do anything but look on in disbelief. Leia has now lost her family in a horrendous way that mirrors that of Luke. Although the audience is reeling from this, the stakes are even higher now. Tarkin has given orders that Leia is to be executed. The rebellion at this point in the story seems to be no match for the Empire. When the action turns back to the Falcon, we see Obi-Wan's reaction to the destruction of Alderaan. The audience sees Obi-Wan stagger and need to sit down from the emotional impact of the planet being destroyed. The audience gets insight into how the Force works, as Obi-Wan explains it to Luke and Han Solo, the captain of the Millennium Falcon. Luke is going through basic Jedi training, but is clearly struggling. Watching a character struggle is important. The audience sees Luke fail repeatedly before having success. The failures help to enhance the success because the success isn't simply given, the success is earned. The crew on the Falcon find themselves at the location of Alderaan, but the planet is gone. They then seem to be headed towards a small moon, the Death Star. Ultimately, the rest of the Alderaan Death Star portion of the movie plays out much like a heist. For example, our heroes are in possession of R2, who has the plans of the Death Star in his memory, who also needed to get said plans to Alderaan, which is now destroyed. The Empire, who chased them off Tatooine, now have them in a tractor beam and headed towards the Death Star, and so on. This is horrible for our heroes, but great for the audience. This repeats the idea that the characters must face difficulties for them to be satisfying and relatable to the audience. It is also a mechanism to unite our heroes on the Falcon with Leia, who's on the Death Star. The heist will now be to get Leia, who knows where the rebels are, and the plans on R2 to the secret rebel base. After the rescue of Leia and a heroic escape from the Death Star, the story gets emotional, especially for Luke, who loses Ben. Obi-Wan Kenobi allows Vader to strike him down, providing a means of escape for our heroes. This moment is hugely impactful for Luke, who sees someone else violently taken from him. What adds salt to the wound is that Ben told Luke that Darth Vader is the one who betrayed and murdered Luke's father. The loss of the grandfatherly Ben strikes an emotional chord with the audience. As Luke's mentor is killed, many will feel as if their mentor was taken as well. This puts a damper on the fact that Leia has been rescued and the fact that our remaining heroes appear to be getting a long overdue win. While the audience is managing these conflicting emotions, the audience is hit with yet another piece of information. The Empire is tracking the Falcon to the location of the hidden base. Our heroes are in a situation that any gain that they make is at a heavy cost. At this point, Luke has lost his entire family and his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Leia has lost her entire family and her homeworld, Alderaan, has been destroyed. The heroes are finally in position to deliver the crucial plans on the memory of R2, but they are being tracked by the Empire and the Death Star to the rebel base. Instead of bringing hope to the rebellion, they could instead be bringing its destruction. In the final act of the movie, the plans of the Death Star finally arrived at the hidden rebel base. As hoped, the ability to destroy the Death Star exists, but it may take a miracle. The only hope is for a single starship to make the perfect shot, which in turn could create a critical chain reaction leading to the Death Star's destruction. The plans are made quickly as the Death Star nears firing range. The important subplot here revolves around Han Solo. Han has been a reluctant hero in the story. He initially gets in the hero business for one reason: money. Along the way, the audience suspects that he has grown to care about his companions. This is complicated when he tells Luke that he must leave and pay off Jabba the Hutt or he's a dead man. The audience at this point is hoping that Han has changed, but are bracing for the possibility for disappointment. Although Han has not experienced the same loss that Luke and Leia have, he has fought right beside them. Han has a bounty on his head, and now has the means and reward money to pay his debt off. If Han operates as he would have at the start, he looks out for himself and runs to pay off his debt. If he has changed, he will ignore the danger to himself and fight right beside his friends. In the pivotal trench run scene on the Death Star, we see two things critical for the evolution of our characters. The first is Han returns to save Luke and thus saves the rebellion. And the second is Luke listens to the voice of Kenobi and lets go and trusts the Force. This allows Luke to make the perfect shot, destroying the Death Star. Together, these events create two satisfying outcomes for the audience. The farm boy who lost so much has now saved the galaxy, and the wayward scoundrel has proven to care about more than just himself. In short, each character experiences change. Additionally, the audience is satisfied that the Death Star is now destroyed and the Empire is defeated. The audience is left with the satisfaction that all of the pain that the characters went through was worth it, as the heroes have won the day. At the end, the audience gets a celebration scene with all of their beloved heroes. The movie ends as our heroes turn and have those in attendance applaud. As the curtain drops on the movie, the music plays, and everyone can enjoy the moment. So why do we love Star Wars? We love it because it takes us on an emotional ride, filled with out-of-this-world characters. We see friendships formed, loved ones lost. We see the teacher meeting the student. We see good versus evil, right versus wrong. We see the weak overcome the tyrannical. We see the scoundrel make good. We see princesses and farm boys unite for a common goal. Star Wars gives us a renewed hope. There's just tons to love. Many of us begin our relationship with Star Wars at different times, or with different favorite movies, or different favorite characters. Some of us love the droids, while others favor the alien species. Some like spaceships and space battles, while others prefer Jedi, lightsabers, and the magical qualities of the Force. What rings true for most of us is that when John Williams' classic soundtrack plays, we are suddenly transported to the galaxy, where our friends in the rebellion fight the Empire for freedom across the galaxy. These are just a few of the reasons we love Star Wars. Our love for Star Wars is as unique as we are as individuals. We want to leave you with this sentiment. Star Wars is a great movie, as it demonstrates the potential for greatness in us all. Thank you for watching. Join us again as we break down another movie that we love. Until next time.